There are definitely some coaches who are just in it for the money. I'm just gonna say that. I've seen it. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Lorena, I'm a somatic self-concept and identity coach, and I support you in bridging the gap between who you currently are or perceive yourself as and who you desire to be or become. Welcome to part 5 of the series, Is the Manifestation Community a Cult? In part 1 through to 4, we defined what a cult is, and we took apart the characteristics based on Michael Langon's framework, and we looked at whether, and if so, how this applies to the manifestation community. We are going to continue with that today. Let's start diving in. Subservience to the leader or group requires members to cut ties with family and friends and to radically alter their personal goals and activities that they had before they joined the cult. Now, I don't think this is true, at least not directly, but I'll give a caveat to this. Because instead of people neglecting their personal goals in favor of the cult's goal, it kind of turns into the opposite, where their personal goals and ego-driven materialistic goals become the ultimate focus. So people will then often stay in a continual cycle of chasing, and we addressed this in, I believe, the second part of this video in a lot more depth. They then often don't know when to actually surrender, when it's time to let go, when it's time to lean back, under the guise of persisting. Now, persistence is great, it's necessary, and technically, true persistence goes hand in hand with surrender. I actually have a whole masterclass series on this. It's free of charge. You can check that out, linked below. But whilst persistence is great, it doesn't come with force, or it doesn't come with inauthenticity. And despite the fact that being part of the manifestation community definitely doesn't require you to cut ties with family and friends, it can still create difficulty because sometimes people don't actually engage in real life things and don't take action on the things that they want because they think they can just magically manifest themselves into the situation. So they ignore the past, or they live in their imagination and don't really care for the things that matter in their life anymore. They don't nurture their relationships properly, they don't work on their goals in a tangible way, and so on. The manifestation can really take over their lives. And instead of just being present and living life, the achievement or manifestation of the desire becomes the primary focus. This also goes hand in hand with the excessive practices, which was one of the first characteristics, so that was in part 2 or 3. So whilst there's no pressure to not doing anything else in life anymore, I've seen this happen indirectly and naturally. Our next point is the group is preoccupied with bringing in new members. Now, I actually don't think this is true. This might be true in some leaders, some coaches, some content creators who are just interested in building a large following, which isn't bad, by the way. There's nothing wrong with building a large following or wanting a lot of clients, but that's where it might come in, an obsession with bringing in new people and kind of widening the circle. But I think largely it's more the opposite, because the elitist mentality more stems from the community being smaller. So I don't think this applies to the community as a whole or at large, but it might apply in some smaller containers or subgroups. I'm not too familiar with that, so let me know if you have some thoughts on this one. And then we've got the next point, which would also warrant a whole video on its own, which is the group is preoccupied with making money. Now it gets interesting. There are definitely some coaches who are just in it for the money. I'm just gonna say that. I've seen it. In fact, not in the manifestation community, but I think this could also apply to the coaching industry as a whole. I have been in programs and containers myself where I thought this person is definitely overcharging. I don't think there's anything wrong with spending or like investing heavily in yourself. I have made investments in myself where I've spent 10K on a program and it was incredible, and I've also invested 2K in a program and I thought that was a waste of money. It's not about the amount, but the value that's provided, the skill set that the coach or mentor has, and how much they pour into it. And I do think Some people just wing it and charge a lot of money for things that don't give people results, for very minimal work on their part. So there's definitely an element of some people, sadly, just being in it for the money. And don't get me wrong here, because I think if you're providing value, you deserve to be paid well. Like, I deserve to be paid well. I run a program myself, which for some people is high ticket. That's all relative. It's all a matter of perspective. It depends on the money that you have and that you make. But for some people, that's high ticket, what I charge. But the value I provide is worth 10 times of what I charge, at least. And I also firmly believe in the power of investing in yourself. Like I said, I have invested heavily in myself, and it's absolutely expanded me. Now, the power of investing in yourself applies provided that it's not a random or impulsive investment, but it's a decision that you make, that something that you want, that you feel like this is it, this is what's calling me, and I see the value in this. Then absolutely, when it's an investment that serves your future or your future self, it's more than worth it. In fact, I think in a lot of instances, it will cost you more not to make this investment and to waste time trying things on your own than to make the investment. But that's not to say there aren't coaches or creators who are just in it for the money, sadly. And you can often tell based on your intuition or the way they talk about things or how pushy they are. Sometimes you see it in the kind of reviews they get. And despite making money being a valid desire, and I have that too, I have a desire for financial wealth, but it has never ever been the primary goal for me, and it will never be the primary goal for me. It becomes very problematic when it's the primary goal or motivation for a person. And just to give you an example for, making decisions to invest, I've had clients who had the resources more than available, but still had some block around making the investment to work with me. I've also had clients who really had to work hard to make this possible for themselves, and where I offered extended payment plans and things like that in order for it to be possible for them. And I think it's an empowering thing if you make it possible for yourself. But I would never convince somebody to take out a loan, go into debt, or invest in my or someone else's program when it makes them feel unsafe or they're unable to put food on the table because of this. That's not what it should be. Your primary physical needs should be met before you make an investment like that. And if it feels good to you, there's obviously nothing wrong with taking out a loan or having some debt, putting things on a credit card if that feels okay for you. If you trust yourself to do that, brilliant. But if it doesn't, then nobody should pressure you to do that. And I have had people tell me that. I've had a person tell me on an enrollment call that they had been on a call with another coach who had told them to take out a loan in order to invest in their program. On the call, they were made to feel that if they don't make that investment, they won't get what they want. And that's just so wrong. I do believe coaching, good coaching, will help you collapse time, significant time. It is absolutely worth doing. But it shouldn't put you into a place where you feel unsafe. It shouldn't put your nervous system into collapse. And it also doesn't mean that if you don't work with me, you're not going to get what you want. That's just not the truth. I've also had people say to me that they've been told by a coach to invest in them because they'll definitely make the money back. They manifest the money back because they give the money. That's what an abundance mindset is. It's not that black and white. And listen, I have experienced this on a personal level with investments that I have made. The most successful month in my business followed right after making the most significant and scary investment that I've ever made in my business. This happened to me multiple times. I've had clients that happened to as well, that really wanted to work with me, that made the commitment, met their edge, and shortly after signing the contract and making their payment, they've had money come in out of nowhere. This stuff does happen. And I think it does happen because you're kind of sending a message to your subconscious of like, I'm all in and I trust myself to do this. But there is no guarantee that it will happen. And if somebody tries to sell this to you as a guarantee, then you're not coming from a place of abundance, you're coming from a place of lack or fear. These situations are lovely surprises, but they're not guarantees. In my opinion, it's absolutely irresponsible to tell people to get themselves into debt or take out a loan just to get money from clients. If someone chooses to do that for themselves, and if they've signed a contract because they trust the process, they want it, yes, awesome. But pushing people towards that, that's financial exploitation. And that actually agrees with the very point of being preoccupied with money. So more so than that applying to the group or the community as a whole, that applies more so to coaches. Then we've got members are expected to devote inordinate amounts of time to the group or group-related activities. Now, this is not so much about the group and group-related activities, but there's an expectation that you're going to devote your time to your practice. This goes hand in hand with the example that I shared a few videos ago about excessive meditating, affirming, using of techniques. And going back to the topic about shame or guilt, when people fail at being consistent with that, because they're human, they shame themselves, they seek blame in themselves, which isn't good, even if there's a practice that you really resonate with and that really works for you and you see it work for you, you shouldn't be made to feel like if you don't do it, if you don't stick to this every day, something bad is going to happen. In fact, sometimes less is more. I would love to hear especially your thoughts and experiences about the piece about financial exploitation. I think that's a very hot and interesting topic. And then next week, we're back with our final episode, final video of this series. And that's when you will get the answer of what I think. And also you will have created your own opinion based on all these points. So I look forward to hearing your perspective then and there when we're all complete. And I'll see you in next week's video.